Hello, welcome to my channel, House of Leo. Today I'm going to teach you how to make these absolutely adorable Christmas tree decorations. They're really easy, really simple, and they just look gorgeous. Let's get going. So to make these trees, I have used double knit yarn, 3 colours for the tree and a yellow for the star, scissors, 2 sizes of hook, a 4mm for the tree and a 3mm for the star. I have a couple of sticks, a needle, a disc of a wood slice, and I have used some lichen to go on the bottom, but you could use fake snow or just leave them as they are. So let's get started. So to make these, you need to start by making a granny square, but I haven't made an ordinary granny square. I've made a spike stitch granny square because I believe it looks a bit more leafy. So I shall show you how to do that now. Starting with a magic circle, we are going to chain 2, and then into the circle we are going to treble crochet in UK, double crochet US, 2 stitches. So your first chain 2 counts as your first stitch, and then you have 2 trebles completing your cluster of 3. You're going to then chain 1 and do 3 more trebles. I'm going to use UK terms, it's easier for me, but when I say trebles I mean doubles in US. 2, 3. So that's your next group of 3, chain 1, another 1, 2, 3, 3 groups of 3, chain 1, 1, 2, 3, chain 1, and then you're going to pull your magic circle closed and slip stitch back into your first stitch. I'm going to now cut my ends, weave them in, and come back to you for the next row. So now I'm going to add the next colour. Go into one of your corner spaces, chain 2, that will count as your first stitch, and then you're going to do 2 more trebles into that corner space. This counts as half a corner. So to start with, we're going to do half a corner. We're going to work on round to our next corner, do 3 trebles, chain 1 and 3 more, 2, 3. So they're all into the same space, so you've actually got 6 trebles into that space with a chain 1 in the middle, creating the corner. We're going to do that again in the next 2 corners, and I shall meet you back to this half corner. Okay, so I've done 1, 2, 3 full corners and back to my half corner, so I'm going to do 3 more stitches into that space. Chain 1 and then slip stitch into that first stitch, and I'm going to cut and weave in my ends. If you're making one that is all one colour, you can then chain 2 and start your next round, but as I'm making these in 3 colours, I'm going to cut and weave in my ends now. These first 2 rows are just like any ordinary granny square, and this next row is where we start doing the spike stitch. So add your new colour into your corner, or as I said before, chain 2, yarn over, do 2 more stitches into that corner space, and that is your half corner. Now we're going to do a normal treble into the next space as you would with an ordinary granny square. But now we're going to do our next treble into the stitch of the row below. and that creates a sort of spike effect. And then for your third one, you're going to go back as you would a normal granny square. So you've sort of got a short stitch, a long stitch, and a short stitch. This also fills in the holes that you get, so it creates a sort of more filled in look. I really like it. So you're onto your next corner. 3 trebles, chain 1, 3 trebles into the same space. Your next side space, do a normal treble as you would a granny square, and then treble into the row below. And then another normal one. You can see that just brings that stitch down into the row below, which looks really good. So I'm going to continue round until I get back to this half corner again. Back to my next half a corner. So we need to do 3 more back into that space. Chain 1 and slip stitch into your first stitch. I'm going to cut and weave in my ends. So there we have row 3. You could stop here if you wanted to make a really small tree and make one that size. This one here has 4 rows. This one has 5 rows. And I have one here with 6 rows. So as you can see, with each row they grow bigger. If you want to do a really large one, just add as many rows as you like. I'm going to turn this one into a 5-row tree. So I'm going to keep going, but just to show you that the size depends on the amount of rows. So I'm back to my first colour. I'm going into the middle again. The middle of a corner, sorry. Chain 2. Yarn over and 2 trebles into that corner, again creating half a corner to start with. So now we're going to be doing one of these spike stitches again, so we yarn over and do an ordinary treble as if we were doing a granny square, and then for this middle stitch we're going down into the row below, and then for the third stitch we're going back into the space as we would a normal granny square. You can see it might be a bit clearer with this colour yarn, but this one is a longer stitch, just brings the stitch down into the space below. And do that again in the next side space, down into it, to the row below, and then as if a normal granny square. And then corners as usual. I'm going to continue round for another 2 rows because I wanted this to be a 5-row tree. And I shall come back to you to show you how to sew it together into the tree shape. Okie dokie, I've made it to 5 rows, and as you can see, it's quite subtle, but the spike stitch just gives it that leafy look that I really like. So now we're going to start sewing it together. You need a length of yarn the same colour as your last round. So I've got my yarn and my needle. We're going to take one corner, fold it in half, like so. I like to thread my needle up into the corner like this. So it's ready to go, and that is tucked inside. And then it's just a whip stitch through the back loops only. So whip stitch is where you go in through the same side each time, moving down as you go. I shall keep going all the way down until I get to this corner here. Once you made it down to the bottom, you can sort of open up and you can see how that has started to create the tree shape. Now I'm going to put my needle through the center point, back loop only, that one, and pull it down. Fold it like this and then go across with my whip stitch all the way to the end. I've made it to that corner. I'm just going to simply pop my thread through, my needle through, sorry, pull it all the way back through to this point and whip stitch along this side. Until you make it to the corner. So I wove in my ends and gave a snip, and you're left with this sort of shape. You could have them like this if you wanted. They stand up on their own like that. Sort of slightly 3D, but I like to squash them down, flatten them out, and they look like this. So next we need to make a star. So to make the star, I'm using a 3mm hook with my DK yarn. I've got a magic ring. I'm going to chain 3. 1, 2, 3. And then do a UK treble, US double into the magic ring. And then I'm going to do a UK double or a US single. I'm going to go back to just UK terms now. So it's a treble, a chain 1, treble, double, treble, chain 1, treble. So I find it quite hard using a very tiny hook, 3mm, and then a double. So we have got 1, 2, 3. You can sort of see that they're points. So we need 2 more, treble, chain 1, treble, and a double. And 1 more of those, treble, chain 1, treble, and a double. Now we're going to pull our magic ring tight. You can see that's made a little star. So I'm going to cut and weave in my ends. Come back to you in a moment. We have our little star to go on top of our tree. You can stitch that on, or I'm going to use a glue gun because it's just quicker and easier. And that's how that will look. You could also, which I have done with these ones, embellish them with some little coloured beads. So those were the first ones I made. These were using an ordinary granny square. So these are an example of what it looks like without doing the spike stitch. They're a bit more holy, I think. I prefer the spike stitch, but you can just do, if you prefer to make granny squares, or you already have some granny squares made up, you can turn those into cute little trees too. And then I have got from my garden just some little sticks. With the sticks, you will have a point at the bottom where you can slip your stick in. So just once it's in, they're fairly secure because they're crochet. They don't need gluing or anything. You could glue it, but I find that they're quite secure. You could keep them like this and have them hanging in a garland, or attach a thread and have them as Christmas tree decorations. But I really love sticking them to these bases with just a glue gun and then having them on the mantle. I think they look really sweet. I'm going to actually make myself a forest of them. I'm going to do all different sizes and different types of greens and have them all over my mantle. So yes, you just simply glue gun them to your base, and then you could add fake snow, or like with these I've used lichen. Any products that I have used I will link below for you to find. So yeah, you just stick them on and away you go. They make lovely gifts as well. They're such a unique, sweet gift for somebody who loves Christmas. So that is the tutorial complete. I really hope you enjoy making these. If you do, let me know in the comments, and please subscribe for more tutorials. I'm always coming up with new things to show you. And yeah, I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas. Thanks, guys.